Okay, let's in fact dive in a little further into this particular issue. I have with me here on the program Mr. PDT Achary, former Secretary General of the 14th Loksabha and 15th Loksabha, also the Loksabha Secretary and the Loksabha Secretariat, Parliament of India. Very good evening, Mr. Achary. You've always helped us understand these issues which keep coming up now, which become a major face-off between the centre and the opposition. Yet again, we have an issue like this on to what extent protests and demonstrations and hunger strikes can be allowed within the premises of the parliament, sir.
This this circular and this bulletin which has been issued by the secretariats of parliament have generated a lot of heat. In fact, I must clarify that this is a routine kind of bulletin which is issued just on the eve of the session, every session.
Yes.
This has been the practice all through, and there is nothing new about this this bulletin, because naturally the parliament secretaries will have to say that no demonstrations or dharna or things like that, agitations, can be held within the parliament premises because it is a high security zone, and then the sanctity of the house and so on. So that is the basis of this. But then this particular communication, has been issued every time, just before 1 or 2 days before the session begins. Therefore, there is nothing unusual about it. But and certainly people used to sit in front of a Gandhi statue. But I must tell you that there was a time when there was no dharna or agitation or anything within the parliament premises. But after the Gandhi statue was involved, then people started resorting to this method of protest. They would assemble there and sit in dharna and so on. So this has been going on, but nobody intervened or nobody stopped them from doing that so far. Although such bulletins used to be issued on the eve of every session, but no effort was made on the part of the Speaker. The Speaker has complete authority over the Parliament building and premises and all that. So no effort was made to stop any MP from silently protesting or from doing dharna and so on.
To what extent will this be binding, Mr. Achary? Would it be something that could invite punitive action? What would be the powers of the Speaker if this particular circular is not complied with?
Well, Speaker, if there is a law and order kind of problem, suppose there is a little violence, then naturally the police will intervene. The Speaker can order the police to intervene and take care of the situation. That is one thing. Otherwise, there is no other action. There is no question of action being taken against the MPs for sitting in dharna or sitting in front of the Gandhi statue and so on. That has been unthinkable. So I hope this will continue in future also.
Okay, are you saying that this is okay? Just for clarity, sir, this is part of protocol. You're saying that before the session, certain kind of circulars are released for the general information of all members of parliament. However, as we have seen in the past as well, protests have happened, whether it is the NDA, whether it is the UPA in power, leaders have always resorted to gathering outside the Gandhi statue with placards. When I asked this question to certain parliamentarians on why the forum in parliament itself is not enough, their argument is that they are often silenced, they are suspended, they are not allowed to make their points, and they say that this is a authentic democratic process which they should not be deprived of. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is true. But as I said, it was not the practice earlier in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and 80s, and 90s. Only after that, this practice started. But anyway, as I made it very clear that there was no action on the part of the Speaker or other authorities to stop them at any stage. So I hope that the same practice will continue, or the same approach will continue in future also.
Okay. Now, at this point, you know, the face-off is on a number of issues. It's also on the issue of use of certain words, which the speaker, again,
Yeah.
in his prerogative, might decide to expunge. A list of those words have been released. That has raised the heckles with the opposition as well. In your understanding, is this, again, a valid process, part of protocol, or is this something that you feel, you know, there are valid objections to?
You know, let me make it very clear that we have been compiling the unparliamentary words, you know, from time to time, updating it,
Yes.
and so on. This is a process which has been going on for a very, very long time. So far as this matter is concerned, there is nothing unusual about it. This has been going on for a long time. And that is precisely what has happened this time also. They have just brought it out. This time, I understand that they are doing it every year, perhaps. Otherwise, earlier, after a certain period, you know, we used to update it. In fact, when I was Secretary General, I did it in 2009. We brought out booklet containing all the updated things, unparliamentary expressions. So this is an ongoing process. But the sticking point, you know, is that there are certain words which have been put in this compilation. But I must say here that these words were used by the members in their speeches, and the chair must have expunged these expressions. And that is why they find a place in the compilation. It is not that the people in the secretariat sit down and then collect a few words and say that these words should never be used. It is not like that. These words, for example, corruption, corrupt, chamcha, bloodshed, and things like that.
Yes.
These were actually used by members in speeches, and the chair must have expunged those words.
Yes.
And then, you know, the members should also be alert about these things. For example, when a member makes a speech, the uncorrected version of that speech reaches him in the morning. Earlier times, you know, it used to reach them in the morning. But now I understand that within 1 or 2 hours, you know, they get the uncorrected version of their speech, the typed speech, and then they are asked to make corrections in that and then send it back to the secretariat for getting it included in the permanent record. Now, when a member speaks, he knows what he has spoken. So if he doesn't find a particular word in that speech, and then the expunged word is there is an indication that a word has been expunged in the footnote. So he can immediately locate it. He can see that, and that should have alerted members, because I find that these words were expunged in 2020-21. And that is why these words find a place in this compilation.
There was also a clarity given, Mr. Acharya, on the context that it is used. So while we may be, you know, surprised with the word like incompetent or ashamed, the speaker says it is not the word per se, but it is the context. And based on that, the speaker will use his discretion. Is that a fair enough argument?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. That is how it is.
Okay.
That is how it is done. Because, you know, the context makes something unparliamentary or indecent or things like that. For example, an undignified word can also be expunged by the speaker. I will just give you a small example. Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia, while speaking in the House, said Constitution was framed by the slaves of the British. This was objected to, and it was found an undignified expression, because he was actually criticizing all the people who were involved in the constitution making. So it was a very undignified kind of expression. So it was removed. The whole sentence was removed from the record. There are so many. For example, one member called another member Chaprasi.
Yes.
chaprasi is not a bad word or it's an unparliamentary word, but in the context in which it was used in the context of a member.
So in one context, it can be allowed to stay. In the other context, it can be removed.
It is actually for the speaker to decide whether it is an undignified remark or whether it is an indecent remark or whether it is unparliamentary and so on. It is for the speaker. Speaker has been given this power to take a final decision on this. Because the rule itself says, if the speaker is of opinion, that is it. So it depends on the opinion of the speaker about that particular word which has been used in a particular
I think
context.
you have cleared a very big misunderstanding and given us a lot of clarity on this, because I think a lot of people were only picking on the words and saying, why is this word objectionable? The idea is to understand that it's nothing to do with the word per se. It's everything to do with the context, and it is entirely up to the discretion of the speaker whether it conveys a disgraceful message or an unparliamentary message. It's the message that counts, from what I could understand from Mr. PDT Acharya. Thank you so much, sir. As always, pleasure to have you on the program, and thank you for giving us clarity on so many issues.